Hey, welcome to another episode of Becoming a Powerhouse Brand. Today, I'm very excited to be diving more into stepping into your power and really becoming that iconic leader so you can position yourself as an authority in your field. And I am welcomed by the beautiful Kayleigh Greenacre, who is a business strategist, a coach, mentor, TEDx speaker, motivational speaker, and mum entrepreneur. So, Kayleigh, welcome to the show. I would love to hear all about your story and how you've got to where you are now.
Hello, my lovely. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I'm really excited to dive in.
So exciting. Yeah, tell us about how you've got to where you are now in your business, how you're helping other people to really step into their power and own their authority.
Absolutely. So, to put the story into a little bit of a short version, so my original background is the education sector. I used to be an assistant head teacher, was in education for many, many years. Worked my way up the ladder very quickly. Was very happy in that. And then my daughter came along, which, as we know, as for those of you that are mums that are listening to the podcast, that does kind of change everything. And then we obviously hit the pandemic, which was a very challenging time for everyone in one way or another. And that was my opportunity, I believe, to really kind of reflect on my life. I was going through a messy divorce at the time as well, lots of different personal changes. And that was actually the opportunity for me to reflect, to think about what I really wanted to achieve. And that is when my business first came about, the business idea. So it stemmed from sort of thinking, reevaluating, reflecting on where I am and where I want to go. And I knew that I had such a passion to support women because I'd done it so much in education, whether they were students, whether they were teachers, senior leaders. I was always and have always been a coach, and I've always wanted to support and help women with their self-belief piece, really, and to really go for their goals and their dreams and what they want to achieve. So my business idea stemmed from that. And quite simply, within that year, I launched my business. And here we are, 3.5 years later, with a business that I love. And I get to work with, as we know, lots of female entrepreneurs to grow and scale successful businesses and to become the iconic leader that they really do want to become in order to stand out and in order to use their own voice.
Yeah, I love that. And I think, isn't it amazing that we live in a world where we get to decide our next move? And I
Yeah.
think we've got so many opportunities available to us. And I think for so many women that are stepping into that kind of leadership role, it's almost like a real pivotal point in their business journey, isn't it? It's a real moment of okay, I'm enjoying what I'm doing, or I'm really good at what I'm doing, but there's just something missing. There's like an inner pull that is telling you there's more, there's so much more available to you. So was there like particular moment where it really hit you? Did you have like a rock bottom moment, or was there just something inside you that was like, I know that I could be doing more, create that freedom and just be there for my daughter more?
It was exactly that. So I think because we had that little bit more time, didn't we, during the pandemic
Yeah.
for the majority of us, although I was a key worker and I was still going in and out of school a lot, I also had sections of time where I was at home. So it just gave me that time to think. And I think the more, during that 3 month period, I believe that we were in lockdown at the time. But the more I thought about it, the more I looked at my daughter, because I remember she was only 3 at the time, the more I thought, you know what, I would love to be able to actually spend more time with her and see her grow up, because I think that
Yeah.
was my biggest struggle. Although I was very successful in my career, I didn't have any mum time. And it was, I was very much the first mum to drop her off at school, before school club, in fact, the last mum to pick her up in the evenings. And I felt like the worst mother. So I think for me, it was kind of that moment and realization of, there is so much more to life than just my career. Like there is so much more. And if I continue to work as I am doing and continue to work my way up even further, my daughter's life will flash by me and I'll never be able to see that. And
Yeah.
it was a massive realization moment for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I think it's also realizing how they're like sponges, aren't they? They're watching our every move and the decision that we make. So actually how we're living our own lives, how we're showing up, the businesses we're creating, the freedom we're creating, it's all making an impact on them and how they're going to go on to live their lives. And I think it's almost that point, isn't it, as a mum? Because I know I was the same, where I was constantly feeling like I was saying, in a minute, I was putting my business before
Yes.
being in mum mode, and
Mm.
that guilt suddenly just hits you and you're like, oh my god, this is going against everything. I'm doing all of this work to create the freedom for them and to have more time with them, but I'm not actually living in the now and prioritizing them right now. And I think it is that moment, isn't it? I think all mums go through this, and there obviously are going to be stages, aren't there, where you have to, there are going to be times when your business does need to come first a little bit. If you're in the middle of a launch and you're doing something to create a massive impact and create the results that are actually going to impact your family's life. But going through that stage of the guilt initially, when you're not necessarily getting to the point where you want to be in your business, it's that real like wake up call almost, isn't it? Where you're like, this is not how I want to be running my business, this is not how I want to be living my life, and really making that change. So could you tell us a bit about how you help your clients when they come and work with you?
Absolutely. So there's two sides to the work that I do with my clients. And one side of it is very much the strategy side. So it's very much the sales, the marketing, the messaging, the content, all of the strategy part of it. So it's very much, looking at the data, the analytics, looking at strategy and creating and crafting a strategy that works for them. And then the other side of it, which really excites me, and it's one of my most favorite parts to work on with my clients, is to support them with how to become the iconic leader in their industry. And that's what I absolutely love. My passion is to support women to find their voice and to bring their voice through in their brand, their messaging, their content, whatever they're putting out to their audience. Because I think from my own experience, and actually through my entire experience in life, I've always been a people pleaser. I've always been
Yeah.
that person that is the yes woman. When I, again, in my career, I was managed by a team of males. And, in everything that I've ever done in my life, I've said yes to people to please other people. And again, I think that was part of the realization thing as well at the time during COVID, where, I was thinking, I actually want to do things for me and my daughter
Yeah.
instead of having to say yes to everyone else as, to please them.
Yeah.
But so I think a lot of the work that I do actually stems from my own experiences. Well, I know it does, and I just think it's so important, isn't it, for women as well as men, really. But I work with women predominantly, but to find their voice and to actually be them and to show
Yeah.
their power, show up in their power, because at the end of the day, that is where everyone's strength is.
Absolutely. And I think everybody has that in them, doesn't they? I always say that everybody has that inner powerhouse in them, even if you don't necessarily feel it right now. There
Yes.
is always something in you that like an expertise that you have that nobody else has, or your own personal journey. There is always a way that you can impact other people and really become that iconic leader. What does an iconic, if you could define what an iconic leader is, what would you say? I'd love to know.
Absolutely. So, an iconic leader in my eyes, and this is the phrase that I use all of the time, it is the go-to person in their industry who stands out, but shares their own vision, values, beliefs, and opinions, regardless of what is going on around them. So, it is the person that sets the trends, the person that literally steps up into a room or walks into a room and all heads turn to that person.
Yeah. It's really becoming known, isn't it? As like you say, as the go-to in their industry.
Yeah,
And it can create
absolutely.
a huge impact in not just how you're showing up and your confidence and the results that you get, but in the clients and how you actually serve them, can't they? It really does make it's like a ripple effect that then goes on to because you're then going to empower other people that are coming into your world who will then go on and impact and empower other people. And it is like it's such an incredible feeling when you help people to really step into their own iconic leadership role because it just transforms everything around you in your business and your life.
Absolutely. And I think when I look at any individual client, and this is for anyone that's listening to the podcast, and, I'm using this phrase, iconic leader, and I know that we very, very openly talk about branding, positioning, authority, all of the things. But I think it is a bit, there's three different aspects to it. You've got your mindset, which leads to it. And that obviously you've got to have that self-belief in yourself and the confidence in yourself first. Then you're obviously working on the energetics, and it's how you show up and the energy that you put into it. And then it's the strategic side of it, which is basically your messaging and what you're saying. So I think if you work all of those together, it's basically the equation. It's, your mindset. And lots of people will say, I'm sure everyone's heard the concept of, 80% mindset, 20% strategy. But actually, you have to throw the energetics in that as well, because you need all three of those things to work together in order to become that iconic leader. Because if one of those three things is missing, you're not going to be able to become that person, and therefore it won't have that ripple effect. But I think it's, you're completely right. I think when you start to show up as that leader, your entire confidence, the empowerment, and it then it does ripple down to
Yeah.
your clients or your community or your friends, the people you are around. And then they will start to feel confident, and they will start to step up, and they will start to learn from you. And it's just the most incredible movement and concept
Yeah.
that really does help and support women.
I think one of the biggest fears people have, especially in the online world, because it's so noisy, there's a lot of people that are out there to be idiots, basically. There's a lot of fear around actually showing up and stepping into your power, being maybe slightly more audacious with your content, with what you're saying. And there's a fear of people not liking what you have to say. So I think, how do you encourage people to really kind of own their authority, take up more space in the online world, and not letting that fear dictate like how they show up, to kind of hide what it is that they really want to be saying because they're worried about what people might respond with.
Yeah, so I think it's a really great question actually, because I think there is a lot of fear. Everyone has fears of some description, and the fear of judgment is a big one. And I do think people fear and worry about what other people will say. I think my best piece of advice for this is to quite simply look at it in the sense of just stay in your lane. You are here to serve, you're here to support, you're here to, whether it's to create a movement like what I do, or whether it's to deliver a message, whether it's to inspire and empower people, whatever it is, whatever your mission is, focus on that mission, on that vision, on that one thing, and make sure that whatever you say and whatever you do, it's aligned with you and it's aligned with that vision and mission. Because I think if you start to allow little voices to creep in, or people's comments, there are some horrible people out there, there's some trolls out there, and it's going to happen anyway. And it won't necessarily happen to you the first time you post something, but I think it's just about staying in your lane and staying focused on what your vision, your mission is. And once you do that, you know that the right people will come to you, and you know that you can have such a positive impact on people's lives. So it's about just making sure that you're reminding yourself of that.
Yeah, it's kind of a daily practice as well, isn't it? Like, and I think whenever anybody is going through any scale in their business, and I always talk about this, even those leaders that you see as like not necessarily putting them on a pedestal, but you see them as having all this success, they're always celebrating these incredible wins and incredible launches. Everybody at every single level up in their business has those fears. They all have some form of mindset, not necessarily a block, but a limit there, or a resistance that means that it's something for them to work through. And that is a sign of growth, isn't it? It's really about stepping into your power and really taking that next level in your business. Like, that is, if something feels scary, it's usually a sign that you're on the right path, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think if it doesn't scare you, then something's wrong. Like
Yeah.
don't play safe is what we kind of say, isn't it? It's I think if it does scare you, if you're, a little bit nervous, a bit anxious about something, do it anyway, because like you said, it's normally a sign that you're on the pathway to something bigger, something better, or you're quite simply progressing on your journey. And I think every little step, if we look at it as a staircase, right? And you're kind of looking at up that next step, and it's only one step that you're going to take at one time as well. And I think that's one of the things as well. So many people try to run before they can walk, so many
Yeah.
people try to get to the top of that staircase years before they naturally would. So I always say to people again, just look at the little actions, the little steps, and then every time you get to that next level, no matter how scary it is, no matter what challenges you come up against, celebrate the hell out of it, because it's then worth celebrating where you have come from and where you are now. So it's that progression that you're making gradually as an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And I think becoming that leader, it's not necessarily talking about how amazing it is to work with you and the results that you can have for your clients. It's actually being really authentic, isn't it? It's about sharing your own personal journey and creating that emotional content. It's got to be a real combination of your own personal journey so that you can be relatable, because people want to lean into the right coach or the right mentor or the right course for them, don't they? And I think that's one of the things that's so incredible, that there's going to be other people doing exactly the same thing as what you do, but they will be doing it in a totally different way. How they serve their clients, how they show up. I mean, both of us help our clients with a similar thing, but we're both quite different people. So we will naturally pull in people that are aligned to each of us as individuals. And I think that's such a beautiful thing, that actually there are so many people doing what it is that you do, for those of you that are listening to this, but that's not a bad thing. That just shows that there is space for everybody. It shows that there is a need for it, and that people want to change their lives. They want to change their business and really create that bigger impact, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I always say it's all to do with collaboration, but
Yeah.
also, again, kind of going back to the concept of, just staying in your lane. It's great to collaborate 100%, but also never see anything as a competition. I think
Yeah.
that's the thing I'm trying to get at is, there shouldn't be such thing as a competition. And although people can look at it from a different perspective, but I always say, think of it as this, if you if I look at myself, for example, I'm a business strategist, okay, and a business coach. Now, there are hundreds of thousands of business coaches out there, less business strategists because it's more of a qualification, something
Yeah.
that people do, focus on. But there's still many of them out there. And it's about, how do I define the work that I do that's unique and that, that really will support people. And I don't see it as competition. I don't see other business coaches or business strategists as competition. I celebrate them and I'm really happy if they're doing great because at the end of the day, like you said, there's room for everyone. And I think it's about, again, then going back to your why, going back to your staying in your lane, staying in your focus, your vision, in your mission, and thinking, well, I can change people's lives because of this. This is the work that I do. This is what I specialize in. And
Yeah.
this is how I will make a massive impact on people's lives. But you know what? They can also go and work with Sally up the road, who also is a business coach, and she focuses on something completely different. And we can collaborate together. And it works incredibly. So I think it's really about never looking at anything as a competition, staying in your lane completely if you want to. But if you're more open to it, look at collaborations, look at opportunities, look at
Yeah.
being able to work with others in order to support other people to get the best possible results.
Yeah, and that is such an empowering thing in itself, isn't it? When you collaborate with people, like magic happens, you bring more people together that you can then impact their lives. Like even things like collaborating on events, you might do a very similar thing to the people that you co-host with, but actually think of how many more people you're going to get in that room that you're going to be able to empower and make a difference to how they show up, like stepping into their confidence. And I think this work, it kind of goes beyond the business side of things. It goes into, it's really helping you to feel more confident and be in alignment with what actually lights you up, and how, like you say, that vision, your values, and what is really important to you. And that's going to be different for everybody. Everybody's values, vision, mission, everything is going to be totally different. And equally, your own personal journey will have been different to anybody else. And that is what is going to make you relatable to your perfect fit clients and collaborations and connections and everything. So, in terms of taking that jump and maybe positioning yourself as a leader, if you're somebody that is perhaps thinking that you would like to support others, maybe you're someone that wants to get into coaching to support others because you've got a whole load of expertise, what would be that first move in terms of really helping you to discover what kind of leader you want to be, or really taking that next step in your business to kind of become that very first beginner like leadership level?
Yeah, so there's obviously, as we know, there's lots of work that they can do on the leadership piece. I think one of the first steps would be, looking at your own experience and your own story, just breaking it down and thinking, right, okay, you might, for example, if they've got a business already and they're wanting to kind of step up as a leader and really differentiate themselves in the marketplace, I would say one of the first things to do is to quite simply ask yourself this question: what makes you different to everyone else? Literally, that first question is one of the most powerful questions anyone can ask themselves, because 9 times out of 10 people will look at that question and go, I don't know. And then you've got to think about it deeper. So then you've got to look at your story, look at your experiences, look at the challenges that you've overcome, look at your lessons that you've learned, look at how you have experienced a certain thing in a different way than your peers or than your friends or whatever it is. And it's a really great opportunity for people to dive deeper into what makes them unique, because that's the thing. I think when you're wanting to become that iconic leader, you've got to have a superpower. You've got to have something about you, something unique that makes you stand out. But it doesn't have to be, I can help you get from 0 to 1 million in 20 days. Like it doesn't have to be something crazy like that. It doesn't have to be that you've gone from, 0 to 1 million in 5 days or 5 years. It doesn't have to be anything to do with money or anything along those lines. It could be something really, really powerful about you, about your experience, your personality, your characteristics. And I do think that's one of the most powerful questions to start with. And once you are able to identify that, you're then able to start to craft your messaging and create messaging, keywords, phrases, and things that really align with you that you can start bringing into maybe your actual content or your offers. And I know there's lots of different steps to it, but I think that would be one of the first things is quite simply what makes you different from everyone else.
I love that. What an amazing question to ask. And that's something that I think is also really important to ask yourself at each level in your business. Like, what is that next move? Like, how do I want to be showing up? What do I want? Because that changes, doesn't it? Like, I'm sure your business has probably had little pivots and changes and shifts as you've evolved, because we naturally learn more, don't we? We're constantly learning. We never know everything. And I think that is such an incredible opportunity that we have that space to be able to learn and grow from a personal point of view as well as a business owner. And that will change things. Even your values can shift. Like my own personal values have definitely shifted over the years of being an entrepreneur. And I think that's okay. And I think it's a really important question to ask yourself at various stages in your business, just to check in and see if you're still in alignment with the direction that you want to be taking. And if it's not in alignment anymore, you get to choose what your next move is going to be and how you're going to show up differently.
Absolutely. I think for my own experience as well, when I first started this business, I mean, my business has definitely changed and developed over even the 3 years I've been in business. But I think it's really important to absolutely be open to change, be open to tweaking, development, and even shifting, whether it's your messaging, your niche, etc. One thing that I believe I was kind of misled on to an extent is the fact that in the early days, I was a business coach. I wasn't a strategist at the time. I wasn't qualified or certified, but I was a business coach and loved what I did. But what I realized is that I was basically a watered down version of my own coach at the time. And it was I became more aware of it that what I was saying and doing, everyone else was doing. And it
Yeah.
was boring. It was boring. No, I wasn't standing out and, all of those things. And I think I was teaching the same thing. And I know we had a conversation about this slightly earlier, but I think what I had to do and realize very, very quickly was this isn't me. It's not making me unique and it's not making me stand out. So that's when I started to lean into the iconic leadership work and actually really did a lot of work, invested an awful lot of time, energy, money, all of those things to make sure that I was becoming the go-to person for what, specifically what I wanted to focus
Yeah.
in. And it stemmed back to my own experiences of women in leadership back in education. And I brought all of that in. And now anyone that knows me, when they hear the word iconic, they know that it's related to me. So it's a
Yeah.
case of just really crafting your way, isn't it? And really making sure that you're using your voice, you're using your passion and using or bringing in, should I say, your vision and your mission, and really thinking about what is it that I want people to know me for.
Yeah. I love that. Amazing. So what is coming up for you next, Kayleigh?
Do you know what? We've got lots of exciting things coming up this year. I must admit, there are two very, very big things coming up, and I will share it with you on the podcast. So they're very exciting. We have I say the brand new and developed movement that is. I'm not going to say the name yet, but absolutely watch this space. It's going to be incredible. It's a massive, massive movement and kind of a shift, as we talked about, how things shift, but a shift in the movement and more of a development in it. And then we've got the documentary being released later this year as well. So it's a very exciting time, a very busy time, lots of travel, lots of events to speak at, etc. this year, but very exciting year as well. And now I'm really looking forward to the next steps.
Oh, amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. Make sure anyone that's listening to this, you go and check out Kayleigh's social media channels and website. Go and see how you can work with her. Do send us both a message if you have enjoyed the episode. And please do leave a review as well. Kayleigh, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It's been lovely to have you here. And hopefully everyone listening to this has come away with some tips, insights, even just feeling more empowered to really take that next step, to really step into that next level version of you. Amazing. Thank you so much, Kayleigh.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.